So welcome everyone, good morning, and actually welcome to the first Pimento Business Development Club of 2023. Can you believe it? I know, we can celebrate 2023. If you don't already know me, I'm Paddy Woods and I'm the director of Pimento Fuse, which is a new business consultancy within Pimento. And I also head up the marketing and new business for Pimento. If you haven't been on previous calls, please use the chat box to ask questions. Today's session is all about exploring how agencies can win in 2023. We know with the market being so volatile that clients are nervous, and we've already heard from agencies that some clients are putting their marketing budgets. I've been speaking to likes of Oracle, where actually their whole marketing team in the UK has been made redundant, and they feel that's just the start, and you've got Salesforce going through 10%. So it's a volatile market, but then you speak to other agencies and they've got the strongest pipeline they've had in ages. So what is going on? So, and to really help us focus on 2023, we thought actually we'd send out a survey to ask for your challenges that you would like answered to help and support your new business initiatives in 2023. To help answer these, I've got three experts who've joined me. We've got Katie Street, founder of Street Agency, Adam Graham, founder of Grey Matters, and Keith Smith, founder of the Advertist. And rather than me reading out their bios, I'm going to actually go around the panel and get them to do a quick intro for themselves. So Katie, do you want to go first?
Yes. So hi, everyone. If I've not met you before, as Paddy said, my name is Katie Street. And I guess we take a slightly different approach to helping actually still a lot of agencies, but we work with a lot more of the MarTech companies as well now, which do take a slightly different approach, but we take a marketing-led approach to solving the sales problem. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to be able to share loads of insights. I'm actually fresh off, last night I was recording with HubSpot for their podcast. So I've got what they're focusing on this year. So yeah, from a marketing perspective, how to build engagement with your audience and solve the sales problem forever in a way where you don't have to sell so much is kind of my thing. And that's hopefully what I'll be able to share some ideas around with you today.
Brilliant. Keith, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Keith Smith, or Smith called Keith. I'm the managing director of the Advertist, which is a new business platform for creative digital PR agencies. And basically, we provide all the kind of tools that agencies use to create their own new business programs. Tied into that, I'm also the host of the Fuel podcast, which is a new business podcast for agencies, and we interview kind of legends and legends to be of the agency world on their kind of views on the general marketing scene, and we kind of pick their brains about their kind of new business tips and techniques as well.
Brilliant. Adam, over to you.
Thanks, Paddy. Nice to see you all this morning. So I'm Adam. I head up a new biz growth consultancy. It's called Grey Matters. We work, I've worked in the agency space for about 15 years, so we help agencies with their sort of positioning, getting their marketing right, building their new biz machine, looking at their sort of technology, lead gen, and fixing kind of the real root of sales problems, wherever that might be. And I also run a community called BD Matters, which is for business development owners and agency owners, coming together to discuss some of their growth challenges. So yeah, great to be here.
Brilliant. Thank you all. Right. As I said, we've got a lot to get covered. So I'm going to start with you, Adam. As I said, lots of agencies are talking about, actually, one of the things that came up in the survey was that they're talking about time it takes to convert clients and to influence clients to buy when their budgets are being cut or they have no additional spend. So is there any advice you can share that will help agencies influence and convert more clients in these situations?
Yeah, so I mean, last year we wrote a blog around sort of this, which we titled "Fuck Budget Cuts, Do More Marketing, and Prepare for the Storm." And there was, I don't know if you remember, sort of last summer there was this taxpayer-funded campaign, part of the government's efforts on the cost of living crisis, and saying basically brands should cut their prices and take their money out of marketing, spend to reduce the prices for customers. And pretty stupid idea, which ultimately just kicks the can down the road and crushes small businesses like ours. But luckily, no one sort of listened to that. And I don't know if any of you seen the latest IPA Bellwether report, but ultimately it's showing that total marketing budgets were up for their 7th consecutive quarter at the back end of last year. So that's pretty positive news. And like, you know, we do expect there to be a lot of extreme scrutiny over, you know, where money is spent. And I think for us, it's about agencies being flexible, offering their clients the right advice, dealing with immediate challenges, and also being able to keep an eye on future opportunities. And agencies need to be helping brands sort of maintain that relevance and demonstrate some understanding, you know, of the current market. Which sort of comes down to creative effectiveness and your ability, you know, to adapt. So, you know, rather than sort of reducing a client's budgets, if that's kind of what they're suggesting, it might be about being more budget savvy and investing that in different places. It might be about utilizing what they've got rather than creating something bespoke, you know, completely from new, which is going to be quite costly. And then, you know, just into sort of, you know, sales advice when you're getting into the new biz process, you know, we talk about showing empathy, you know, understanding what these businesses are going through and sort of really empathizing with that, but also looking at removing the friction and the barriers to buy you as agencies. So preempting some of those objections that they might have, dealing with them head on, getting them to focus on the returns of their investment and showing, you know, demonstrating that through case studies, through proof about, you know, what are they going to get back if they do continue to invest with their budgets. Remind them about long-term brand building. So, you know, there's lots of reports out there that sort of say that, you know, you'll damage the longevity of your brand if you stop, you know, investing in marketing. And one sort of well-known procurement consultant, Tina Fegan, I'm sure a lot of you have come across her, you know, she's working with brands, and she said it is not uncommon for brands to be starting planning for 2024, is what she said on our you know, our latest conversation. And that was talking to brands like Lucozade. So, you know, yes, this year might be a case of, you know, treading water and not exponential growth, but brands are starting to think about 2024 already, if you're a brand of that size. So, yeah, all kind of practical things we think you can do to try and encourage clients to keep spending.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. Keith, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Adam's absolutely right. I mean, I think it's, you know, we have to keep our head up, and, you know, we've got to keep looking forward. But, you know, short term for me, this is about this emphasizes the difference between new business and business development. And, you know, your existing client base, you know, they may be sort of putting everything on, you know, freezing everything or cutting back or whatever, but that doesn't stop you looking forward. It doesn't stop you trying to prospect for new business. And, you know, I mean, you know, we've got a saying over here, it's like, you know, you can't get blood out of a turnip. And I mean, you know, if you just keep squeezing, you could just keep working the clients that you've already got and nothing's coming out, you need to have alternatives. And I mean, that's basically about putting new business prospects into the pipeline as soon as you can.
Brilliant. Katie, do you want to add anything as well?
Yeah, I mean, the guys have kind of said it all, but one extra thing that I think really helps, well, all of the things that you guys have said, but in terms of your approach, you do need to be able to, give them the insights to make them understand the, problems that they're going to face if they stop marketing to their audience and they stop building engagement with their community and their prospects, because that is a much more dangerous place to stop talking to your customers and the people that you need to buy your services or products than not doing it. So thought leadership around that, like Adam was saying, case studies and prove it pieces to kind of go, look, this is what happens when you do it well. And us at Street, we're a great case study for ourselves with this. We do this for ourselves, and most of our clients come to us going, we want you to do what you do for you guys, for us. So use yourself as a case study, make sure that you're doing it, because if you're not, how are you going to be able to do it for them? And the third one, which I guess we maybe haven't talked about yet, is making it really easy to start working with you and buying you. So I always think there's three types of content super important. There's those insights, educational pieces. There's the case study, prove it pieces, whether that's your own case study or evidence of something else that's happened in the marketplace. And then there's, okay, how do I actually start working with you? How are you going to make this easy for me? So if you're trying to attract new clients, and also with your existing clients, having some kind of, we call them gateway products, but like gateway drugs, it's a way of getting addicted of working with you, but something that's going to give them some outcomes. That's a small piece of work that's really easy for them to get their head around, how to work with you, but also will give them some outcomes that then hopefully give you a whole pipeline of future work with them, because there'll be some actionable things that need to come out of that. So that would be the only additional thing I would add into that.
Brilliant, thank you guys. So moving over to you, Keith. One of the things that sort of I think the Advertist is really good at is their sort of client data and brand data. And one of the sort of questions that came through, which is actually when the recession hits, or when, if some say we're not in a recession, others say we are, given the current crisis, what brand categories actually will be the most resilient during this process, during this time? And actually, what this isn't saying is every agency going after every brand in this category. It's actually been much more effective, which we'll come to later on. So Keith, what sort of brand categories will be worth targeting and approaching during 2023?
Well, it's a great question, and I mean, I just before we came on, I did a quick look across all the kind of news and the data that we've got, and to be honest, there isn't a Goldilocks sector. Everywhere is being hit at the moment, in some way, shape, or form. I mean, really, no, I joke, but I mean, unless you're in debt recovery or you're a law firm or something else like that, there's always going to be issues. Everybody's been impacted by it. I mean, you just have a look at, just do a Google search on, for news on, on things like layoffs or downsizing, and you'll just see, the tech sector, Google itself, Intel, Microsoft, Amazon, Twitter, they're all brands that agencies traditionally love to target. They're all, sort of shedding manpower at the moment. So, and you've got the media and finance sector as well, with the Washington Post, NBC and Goldman Sachs, all got big layoffs. But so you've got everything from food, travel, retail, manufacturing, and all the kind of big stars, the A-listers of those sectors. They're all hurting. But the thing that I like to sort of, to try and get people's focus on is, if you just scratch the surface of every sector and you look just underneath them, you'll find all the challenger companies and the challenger brands, and you get these like heavily funded startups and, agile businesses and, all those sorts of things that are really hungry to kind of get some market share. So, I mean, that for me is where the optimism are those companies that are trying to, to steal the lunch of the A-listers. And you just need to know sort of where they are. What we've noticed at the Advertist is that the success is coming from hitting those challenger brands, and because they're eager to learn from agencies with all the experience of working for these companies. So, I mean, that for me is where, so it's not just one sector, it's all the sectors, but just look beneath the A-listers and look at those brands and companies that are coming up, because that's where the gold for me lies.
Brilliant. And Katie, Adam, do you want to add into that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we do a lot of deep research on this for our clients. It's something that comes up, every day. We presented a whole load of market insights and trends, and we work really closely, with people like Alpha Insights, Honch, and various others to look at buying triggers, trends in marketplaces. And I think there's opportunity in every market. There's going to be people that do well, people that don't do well. My brother's just moved jobs. He works in SaaS, sales, basically. He was at a company called User Testing. They've just laid off 50% of their staff. So he was like, yep, glad I moved. Working for a new company called Harness have just bought another business. They're both tech companies. Like, in every sector, there's going to be winners and losers. Just because businesses are, just to kind of go back to the initial question, just because businesses are laying staff off doesn't mean they don't need agencies. In fact, often it's opposite. They're getting rid of staff, and they may be scaling up with contractors, agencies, freelance resource, because that feels safer. So every business is different. You need to do your own research. I would say, understand the trends, not just the sectors. Understand what's important to the large scale ups that are receiving major funding, and when they're receiving funding is a great time to reach out. But also understand the challenges that all businesses are facing because of the economy and what's going on in the world. Consumer behavior has massively shifted over the past few years, and we see the most success with our clients when we're talking about how they can understand consumer behavior. So whether that's talking about what, Gen Z, how brands should engage with Gen Z, how brands should engage with women, how brands can respond to these changes in consumer behavior. That's what brands want to hear about, and that's what they need help with. They care about culture. Digital transformation, of course, is rife and huge. So think about the things that you can it's about this is basic stuff that I talk about on the podcast and the webinars and all the the things that I do, and I'm very lucky to host a podcast and interview people on this every brands and agencies and tech partners on this every single week. But at the end of the day, it's understanding your audience, your community, your people, however you want to refer to them. What are the challenges that they face, and how can you help them overcome them? And really, that's as simple as it is, I would say. I mean, there's lots of other things you then need to do, but understanding what the challenges are is absolutely key.
Brilliant. Adam, do you want to bring in anything as well? You're on mute.
Yeah, the only thing I'll sort of add to that, I mean, I agree, obviously, I guess what we're talking about is looking for those trends, looking for those trigger points, right? In terms of there's always opportunity, right? In any storm, there is always winners, there is always losers, right? And it's new business about being smart enough to find the winning companies, the growing companies, and knowing what those trigger points are. There are some trends that we can look back to as well, some research on previous recessions. Now, every recession is different, but every recession, healthcare companies do better than every other, or are less affected, I should say, than any other industry, right? And that is, that is just true if you look back over any recession. And there are certain things as humans that we need more than others, right? And so things like materials, things like consumer staples, we do go back to those things all the time, because we aren't going to stop having bread and milk and eggs and things like that on a regular basis. And we do need energy and fuel in our cars and stuff. And so there are certain sectors that are more resilient, and even and some of the adversity, like even things like the luxury sector, who target a really premium high net worth individual, are less affected because the people who shop and buy in those sectors are less affected. So there's certain trends and things that you can look at, but there's opportunity everywhere.
Brilliant. And Katie, I think we've covered a lot of this, but actually we've talked about weathering the storm. And so to help agencies, what should their focus be in terms of helping? We talked about, you got the IPA, they've got the Bellwether, you've got the IPA, sort of Les Bennett and Peter Field, sort of long and short of it. What other things can agencies really be doing to focus and help their clients, give them insights and information that's going to help them convert as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many things you can do, and that's what's brilliant about marketing, right? Is there is not one way to crack this nut. So whenever I'm talking to clients, and I think I've spoken to a few of you about this on here. So hi guys that I've spoken to about this previously, is do something that's going to, what you need to understand where your audience live and breathe, what their problems are, what their challenges are. We've kind of spoken about that, but do create tactics, one, that are going to reach them in the right place, but also that it's going to be easy for you to do, and think about the types of content that are going to make it easier for you to reach more and diversify your content. So for instance, I do a podcast, we create a lot of events for clients, and we always think about how we can shatter that content. So you've got to think about something that you can do, that you can break down. The more human it can be at the moment, I think the better. Businesses often feel like they need to show up as businesses. Most of us are B2B. When you're an agency talking to other brands, who are other businesses, you feel like you need to show up as a business. No, you need to show up as a person. So be more human, create more human content, show your culture, your people, talk about the things that matter. So, for me, the podcast is great because every week, not only do I get to invite potential prospects onto the podcast that I potentially want to be clients, because, they are leaders in their field and I want to be working with leaders in the field of marketing, but I also get to record half an hour or an hour's worth of content. I then break that down and create 3 or 4 video pieces of content that go onto both LinkedIn and Instagram. I transcribe that and we create an article that goes onto the website. I way. We create value slide shares that then go onto LinkedIn that kind of take out the 5, 6, 7 key takeaways from that podcast. So depending on how people want to engage with my content, I have so many people say to me, I've never actually listened to your podcast, but I've seen all the clips, and that gives me all the information that I need on LinkedIn. So think about something. For me, the podcast is easy to do because I love talking, as you can probably tell. But you might be a brilliant writer. I mean, yesterday I was talking to HubSpot about building community. Community, I think, is the future of marketing. So can you build a community group? There's some great platforms out there that will help you do that, like Guild. What is it that you can help your audience with? What could you start to build a community around? You know, LinkedIn is making this so much easier for us now. They transcribe video, so record a video on a weekly basis just of you sharing some insights. Create a LinkedIn group. Go live on LinkedIn. Whatever's easy for you to do it and keep doing it. And do not expect hundreds and hundreds of leads to come in on day one. This is something that grows and, you know, gets better over time. So pick something that you know is going to be easy for you to do, that you can put in a place where your audience live and breathe. And there's so many, you know, there's so many different places, you know, LinkedIn, email, getting good data, understanding trends and insights. There's a million different things. And obviously, you know, I'm lucky enough at Street to be able to do all of that because I've got a team and we do this for our clients. But work out what's easy for you and just get started and pick maybe one channel. You know, don't overwhelm. Like even me speaking to my marketing team this morning, they were like, oh, but it's just so much to do. We're going to be doing this and doing this. And it does feel overwhelming. But if you've got a process and you're doing things, you know, in a sensible way, it does, you know, it creates that content machine that means that you're going to build engagement and trust. And having spoken to HubSpot and all the people that I speak to, that is the number one thing for B2B marketing. It's going to be about building community, building trust with your audience. Oh, and also, have you all tried ChatGPT yet? Because believe me, it's going to really, if you want to do written content, and now I don't believe in creating fake content not being real, but you can literally type in, write me an article about, I don't know, whatever it is that you do, how digital transformation is changing the retail sector. And it will write an article on how digital transformation is changing the marketing sector. And you can edit it and add in your own bits and pieces and just think about how you can make it real, but easy.
And the mad thing is that ChatGPT takes about 30 seconds to do it for you.
I love it. I mean, yeah. It's insane. In fact, I'm going to publish an article tomorrow on HubSpot. I'm going to we're going to publish 2 articles. We're going to ask the audience to guess which is the one that we wrote and which is the one that ChatGPT wrote.
It's not even connected to the internet yet. So like, that's the scariest thing. It's just using data that it's harvested from like, for the last 3 years. And so it could get so much more advanced once it's sort of taking live data through. But yeah, scary, the world of AI.
I made the mistake of showing it to my teenage daughter last night.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'm like, you do have to do your homework, darling.
That's going to be the future. AI doing the kids' homework.
There's so many tools. I mean, that's just one, but there's so many tools, transcription tools. There's so many, even things like when I'm recording podcasts now in Riverside, I can just, if I think something's interesting, so I can get the timestamps to my team better, pressing the space button. There's so much technology out there. It is hard to keep on top of it. And it's something that I really try to do because there's so many data insights, marketing tools, content calendars that you can use to make all of this stuff easier. But find the ones that work for you and use them, because it's about showing up and keeping on showing up. That is actually the most important thing here. Keep showing up, keep being relevant, and that will really help you.
And I think
I was going to say, I think the sort of promotion side of it is so important when, sort of in this climate as well. And I mean, as Katie quite rightly said, I mean, you've got to kind of experiment. You've got to try a few different sort of tactics. And I think, doing podcasts. I mean, Katie's got an excellent one. Mine's not that bad either.
Brilliant.
But I mean, there are lots of opportunities. Even the Pimento network. There are some great opportunities to get out there and get in front of people, and to get your point of view across. And I think we've never had a time like this where you can market yourself in such a cheap and affordable way. So I think, use it, utilize it, and, find ways to generate interest, get a talking point, something that your agency believes in, get out there and start talking about it, because, that's what you do for your clients, so do it for yourself, be agile, be adaptable, and promote yourself, because I think this is a new opportunity for us all, and, grasp it with both hands.
I agree. Adam, do you want to add anything as well?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure on the question because we kind of sort of moved into different areas of promotion, which I think is really important. I just on the I know there's a question around sort of advertising and marketing sectors and weathering storms and things like that. I think I think sort of marketing is constantly reinventing itself, and our role in the boardroom and what the role we play in companies is. And obviously, like, the biggest trend we've seen in the last couple of years is around sort of sustainability, ESG, and then just ethics in general, right? And that's a consumer shift around how can brands play a bigger role or mean more in people's lives. And I think that's an opportunity for all of us, right? Because that's something all brands are struggling with, some more than others. And they all need to find their own way. And we've seen all this sort of greenwashing, people jumping on the bandwagon, getting it wrong, all this kind of thing. So within that, there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for the marketing sector to play a role. I think we're still trying to work out what our role is. I've seen some terrible examples of and places where brands shouldn't be, but I think every brand has a right, to think about that, to think about their relevance to the consumers and how they can be a more important integral part of positivity in their lives. So that's something I think a lot of agencies have gone on that bandwagon, but we can all start thinking about that in the work that we do.
I think the other thing as well is clients need our help and actually need our advice and need our skill set that they don't have in-house. And I think that's where we can really play. And what's that strategic thinking that we can bring to the table that's going to help them think ahead in the future. And I think that's something that actually there's a real opportunity around that. But I think you're right. It's one of those, we hear a lot of agencies, they try something and then after 3 months they stop because it's not worked. It's a long-term game, and you just keep on doing things. So don't try and do too much. I think, Katie, we spoke about this ages ago. Don't try and do everything. Try and simplify what you can and can't do, and then just stick to that. And then as you get more confident, then you can start building out more and more on top of that. And I'm going to shift this on to, so actually talking about resilience. And we've got clients like Dr. Pepper, Coca-Cola, 365-day payment terms. They're trying to introduce. Now that's going to kill most small businesses, and in fact, it will kill most businesses. So for a individual consultant, small agencies, or even medium-sized agencies, how can they adapt to these times to keep that resilience and stay sort of on top of things?
Yeah, so there's so much we could say here. I'll start from the new business side of things, and I think resilience equals good CRM, right? So that is what will keep you resilient, right? If you can look into your CRM system and see a strong, deep, valuable database of warm contacts that you've spoken to, at length over time, you will be resilient. If you're not, you will not be resilient. It's very simple as that. Poor CRM, poor resilience. It's really that easy. In terms of other things, you can think about, at this time, I think you can look about how you can diversify, into sort of more cost-effective channels for your clients. So, how can you gain results through maybe a more integrated approach? I saw during the pandemic, a lot of events businesses shifting into sort of content development and visual production and things. And that's sometimes what needs to be done in order to survive and ride out hard times. You can also make yourselves easier to buy and think about, a lot of things we help clients with is how can you make your offering more packaged and less bespoke and a bit more up in the air. So how can you move people along a sort of sales funnel, but be more in control of what you're selling rather than sort of finger in the air, really bespoke, scary scope of work. And therefore that's when things start to fall away from you in the sale. You start to lose because different decision makers, do we need that? Do we not need that? Is the budget this? Is the budget that? And eventually the whole sale and deal falls apart. Whereas if you can be really strict about this is what you're buying, this is the time, this is the output, this is the price, it's very easy. It's a yes or a no, right? So you can maintain control of that sale by creating more sort of packaged things, or a lower packaged priced option of what you do. I think if you're an individual consultant, I think you can focus a lot on partnerships. I think, community, like we've talked a little bit about today already, but building strong partnership networks is going to help you be more resilient. And so reaching out, nurturing that partnership network and being top of mind, constantly. And being strategic. I think like Paddy, like you said, like clients are looking for us to be experts, right? They want our advice. And our job is not necessarily about just selling the services we do or just forcing something down their throats. It's about actually understanding their challenges and being more strategic to understand where are those quick wins? How can we identify those marginal gains? And just because you don't get to sell your 30 grand website or your 50 grand event, how could you help a company with 3 grand just identify a few problems? And if you did that, what would that mean to your relationship with that business over a longer period of time? So sometimes I think we sort of stop ourselves by trying to sell too much, too early and too quickly. And it's not really what the client needs or what the client wants right now. So I think it's about listening, right? And just really being adaptive to what they are saying and giving them what they need right now. So yeah, they're my tips.
I agree. I mean, I think sorry, Katie, did you want? I was going
you go next. I'm good. I'm listening. I'm good.
I couldn't agree more with what Adam's saying. I mean, I think this is about. We've got to change. When the times change, we have to change with them. And I think part of the key to resiliency is being adaptable, being able to kind of move and switch your game up. And, you can either do more or do less. I think, sticking to rigid pricing and stuff like that at a time like this, it just hobbles your business. So I think you do need to look at extra things. I mean, even with like with the Advertist, we've been looking at extra tools that we can add into the service that help people get further down the pipeline. And these are very low cost, but these are partnerships that we've developed, because we go to a company of a similar size and we say, hey, look, you do this, we do this. We're not competing. We're not stepping on anybody's toes. Let's just partner up and see what we can get out of it. So I think, this is about trying to be more flexible and trying to be more agile in order to kind of bulletproof your business, because, the more rigid you are, the less inflexible you are, the harder it's going to be, because you're only selling one thing to one type of person. So I think, try and be flexible and adaptable. That's my tip. Yeah,
but think ahead, because can I give you some advice, having done this for me, for most of my own business? So we did some like product cards, and when we very rarely need to do sales new biz outreach at Street, because we've got such a highly engaged audience that are inbound. We take a marketing-led approach to self and sales, so we have a lot of inbound. But we did some campaigns probably about a year ago, which won us a whole load. So, and we do have, exactly like you guys are saying, this is the right approach. We had various different offerings. We have retainers, we have specific projects we can help clients with, we do events. There's so many different things that we can do. So we thought, right, let's push out some more product work. We actually ended up selling too much, and I put so much pressure on my strategy team. So you also need to make sure that you're ready to scale for that if you're really going to go for it. I guess we were in a very lucky position that we have a highly engaged audience, and the sales came in really, really quickly, and then it became hard to deliver. So if you're going to do it, just be ready to deliver against it. And I think that is something really to keep in mind. And other things, that maybe are not so much around, making sure that you've got that variety and the different things that you can sell, but also, really basic payment terms. Be really clear when you're onboarding a client that who you're because from a timescale point of view, things can, when we are all worried about, payment terms, clients trying to stretch out those payment terms, really simple things, onboarding client, who should I be invoicing? How do I need a PO? when try and negotiate the best payment terms. That's really, really simple things, but in the market that we're currently in, really, really important. We often will set up with our retainer clients direct debits, just simply using Go Cardless, because I don't have to worry about chasing them. They're, my operations team are much happier, my accounts team are much happier, because it just happens in the background. So I think just little things like that can also really, really help. I totally agree, by the way, in terms of diversity of what you're selling, but I'm just, word of warning, having done that and run campaigns on it, which worked so well that I then almost broke my team. So make sure you're ready for it, because if you win a whole load of project work, is quite high, as a lot of you guys will know, because you probably are mainly doing project-led work. It's really hard. It's often feast or famine. So we do focus a lot of our time on retainers to make sure that it's consistent and we can kind of manage our growth.
Just a quick extension on that, I think I'll mention is, like you said, operational efficiency and the use of automation. I think there are so many tech tools on the market, right? Like you say, Go Cardless, but there's a billion other things that integrate with CRM. So do look, if you're doing if your manual tasks are taking you a long time, there's probably a tech tool out there that could solve that and do it in half the time. And so when you're a small business or an independent consultant, looking at trying to get those margins and increase them, then something like that can really, help increase your profitability.
Completely agree. Thanks, guys. And shifting now, it's part of the new business role is helping clients and client servicing you've already got. But I'm going to pass this to you, Kate, in terms of actually finding that right balance between winning new clients and actually servicing and supporting existing ones, because it's still 80-20 rule is normally sort of priorities rule is always brought in at this stage, but it's actually nowadays what is right. We've talked about it, clients drying up, or their budget spend sort of reducing. So how can we service both new business and current clients?
It's so tough, right? I wish I had all the answers to this, because I'd be a very rich lady. We are a marketing new business agency, consultancy, whatever you want to call us. We help people attract and win new clients at the end of the day. And so therefore we do that very, very well for ourselves. Every year we win more new clients probably than we do in terms of the project work and the retainers that we have. That's just but because we practice what we preach. So a big focus for us is what can we do to retain more and improve the service that we give to our clients. The first 2 clients I ever won nearly 4 years ago when I started Street are still clients of ours today. That doesn't happen often. So we know that we can service our clients well, but there's always little things that you can do extra, I think, to really kind of stay on top of that. And a lot of that is about some of the stuff that Adam was saying, looking at new technologies. How can we service them better? How can we make it easier? How can we do more? How can we make sure that we're giving them the love, the attention, and our values are all around that. It's about proactivity, open, honest, always going to the client before, if there's ever a problem or anything that we spot, making sure we front that up before the client fronts that up. So those kind of things, I think, in terms of client retention are really important. It's a lot of that is around organization, training your team, making sure you've got a good team. But also, something that I've learned as the business has grown is, some clients just aren't right for us. And I am really, really strict about who we work with. We don't tend to work with that many small independent agencies anymore, because they're often, if we're creating lots of leads and opportunities, not always have the team internally to convert the sales. Hence, we've started to work with a lot more MarTech businesses, and they're converting them like you wouldn't believe, because they've got highly trained salespeople that are absolutely on it, that are dedicated to that role and dedicated to converting those leads and selling products often, or off the shelf, tech products that are easier for them to sell. So also think about the clients that you want to keep and the ones that you don't want to keep. I've got a really clear plan about the clients that I want, that I know are going to be more profitable, that I'm going to do better work with, that are going to be easier for me to retain this year. And the ones, some of them that I already work with, that maybe aren't quite the right fit for us anymore because we've evolved as a business, and we do track the data, we look at profitability, and clients that don't make my team happy, my team is my most important thing. I don't want my team to be unhappy. So there's so much I could dig into here from personal experience, but yeah, I think for me the key is understanding where you want to go, who the clients that you work really well with, doing the work that you love and that makes your team happy. That's really, if your team are doing stuff they love and that they're brilliant at, that's the winning recipe. You'll keep clients and you'll keep winning new ones.
I completely agree. Getting rid of the bad clients is always a good thing to do.
It feels hard, right? Because sometimes, and I've been there, we grew really quickly in the pandemic. It was my own worst enemy. And, then I'm winning clients and taking clients on that I don't really feel are right for us. The attitude isn't right, or there's something that doesn't feel right because I'm under pressure, because I feel like I need to feed the team. And that's a really horrible place to be. Even though we've always had a really strong pipeline, there are times where we were growing that quickly that I was like, well, we need that client because I need to feed the team and I need to be winning 2 or 3 new clients a month. And that was a hard place to be. So my attitude towards a lot of this is definitely, who's spoken to me a year or 2 ago, I would feel different to how I do today. So I think be real. Also it's stressful out there, right? It's the world is changing, and we can all do as much as we possibly can to protect ourselves, but also burnout. I feel more, I don't know what the word to use here is. I was thinking about this yesterday. Overwhelmed, maybe. Sometimes I'm not someone that feels overwhelmed, but there's just feels like there's so much going on and lots of people are feeling like that. So also just be realistic with what you can achieve, because sometimes growth and the big figures, we're more profitable. We've been more profitable when we've had less turnover. So just think about what's going to work for you, your people, your mental health, everything to make a happy business.
Yeah, I following on from that, I think it's a great point. On the podcast, I interviewed Niels Lennon from Uncommon, and he was talking about his days at Grey when he literally had a win-lose-draw sheet, and he was so hungry for new business all the time. And he said he absolutely shot himself in the foot doing that. And so the difference with Uncommon now is, as a creative agency, they only work with, and this echoes what Katie was just saying, they only work with clients that have the same shared view and vision that they do. So they're not interested in somebody that says, I need a brand makeover and I want to target millennials and stuff. That's not the point. What they're after brands that are looking to change the world. They're after brands that are looking to make a big difference. That's their thing. And so they're looking for clients that fit their thing. And I think, that's what we can all take a lesson from, is being strong enough to say, yeah, that fits what we do, so yeah, we're up for it. So yeah, that's I would completely agree with that.
I agree. And also it's actually, when you're touching, if it's relevant, if your brand positioning is right, actually you've got to be strict about the clients and the position that you put yourself in. Otherwise you're sort of weakening what you're talking about. Yeah,
weakening what you're talking about, and also weakening your work. I know the bit that we're really good at is the marketing bit. That is we are great at building engaged communities, audiences, and getting people on side. I also traditionally in my career have done a lot of pitch work in the new business side, but that's not what my business doesn't exist to do. If someone says that's what they want to do, then I'd say, well, go to Adam. I know Adam does more of the work on the new business and the pitching side. That's not, although I know how to do it, I don't have the capacity, I don't have the team to do it. It's not right for my business. So I think you have to start as business, you grow up as business, you learn the bits that you're really good at and that where the growth area and the money is. So, be strict with yourself about that.
Don't get me wrong. I don't turn business away either. That's another thing, I think I'll still have those conversations, and yes. One may close and another one may open up. Sorry, Adam, I just jumped over that.
No, fine. I wasn't going to make a short point, but I think the client servicing one's an interesting one. And we're doing a session on BD Matters in a couple of months around the skills a client services person needs to learn moving into a business development role, and sort of vice versa. And I think there's a lot of talk here. We do a lot of talking around this, around sort of hunters and farmers, and can client services people be BD people, and can BD people be new business people? And I think that there's a lot in there we haven't got time today, but to unpack. But all I'm saying is that I think there are a lot of missed opportunities, I would say, by client services people who aren't growing clients and aren't thinking ahead, aren't making themselves indispensable, aren't asking the right questions. They are merely just retaining or just keeping things. But I don't think retention is enough, certainly not in this market, and to retain, you've got to be growing, if you know what I mean. It's like, terrible football analogy, but if you aim to win the league, you might finish in the top 4, right? The chances are getting to the top is hard, and you've got to go above and beyond, basically, to retain clients. You can't just keep them happy. You've got to think about the future, and that's about growth, really.
It is really hard, because you do, and I see this, sometimes with my team, and that's why we have monthly catch-ups where you have training budgets for all the staff. Is you become you're just ticking the boxes. I need to do this, so I'm doing this, and I don't have time to do anything else. And certainly when you get busy, it's tough, right? So you've got that proactivity, always learning. I think culturally, that for us is the biggest thing. Having constant training. Tamba we built out to help give people insights and training and the ability how to learn how to do these things better. But always be listening, always be learning, always be attending things like this, talking to other people, because that's how you'll grow, and how you can encourage your team to grow as well.
And actually, we're also talking about it next month as well, and sort of on the BD call, we've got a couple of consultancies coming in from the client relationship side of things. I'm going to move us on because I'm conscious of time. We talked about tools and tech, Keith. It's a key part of making sure agencies really can be more effective in their new business efforts. From your perspective, what are the essential tools needed to succeed in new business in 2023?
Well, I think this kind of comes back on, what both Adam and Katie were saying, was just plan this out. Make sure you know sort of where you've come from, where you're going to, and how you're going to get there. And I've broken it down into when, how, who, what, and why. All right. So when are you going to do the campaign? When are you going to kick this thing off? I mean, that's your first starting point. How are you going to do it? What kind of content are you going to look at? Are you going to do a podcast? Are you going to do SEO? You're going to revamp your website, preferably all of them, and pushing all of them at the same time. Who are you targeting? Why are you targeting them? What's your message? All these kind of key things. They're really simple, and keeping it simple is the winning strategy for new business. The more, as Katie said, the more weeds you find yourself in, the worse it gets, and keeping it simple and keep simplifying your proposition, your message, your target market. Do one thing and do it really well, and keeping it, keeping yourself sort of focused on the job, and keep doing it as well. I mean, as Katie said, this isn't an overnight thing. So keep at it, keep working at it. You may get one call, you may get one conversation one week, next week try and make it 2, make it 3 the following week, all that sort of stuff. Slowly move the ball forward, and be consistent. That's how these YouTube stars, that's how they become stars, is because they're consistent, not because they happen to have one sort of viral hit. They consistently putting products out there, putting content out there, and gradually building a fan base until in the end they're up to a couple 100,000 people. I mean, that's what makes the difference. So just be consistent, keep doing it, keep at it. Adam quite rightly said, just keep, as long as you've got all the right tools, like a decent CRM system, or something that you can manage all this with, instead of just a sheet of paper and forgetting about it. But do it properly. Get all the right tools. You can get free tools to do all this sort of thing, and do it simply and do it well. That would be my kind of a piece of advice on that.
Brilliant. anyone else got anything to add, or it's just, I think we can look and share some tools later on, and we can build out a sort of database of things that actually people can look at. But
I would
actually,
say so many tools that probably I couldn't list them off, but I can definitely share with you, and I might even be including a whole load of them actually in a post that we're going to be doing soon, and I talk about them all the time on the podcast. So yeah, more than happy to share a whole list of amazing tools that we use and ones that we don't, that we want to use.
I just want to touch on, Keith, something you said before. There is one question that's coming from Marcus, but before we finish and wrap up, you talked about the YouTubers and how they grow. They're also testing their messages in lots of different ways to see what gets the most traction in terms of opens, views, clicks, whatever it is. They're testing their messaging all the way to get, and that's, I think my daughter watches Mr. Beast, and that's why he's worth 70 million pounds and we're here, sort of thing. So I think that's sort of really something to consider as well. Marcus sort of just asked a question which is about mental health, was mentioned earlier. Over the last few years, agencies have been better at respecting the mental health of new business teams. Do you think the financial pressures of this year mean that agencies will start putting more pressure on new business teams? I'm going to open up to Adam.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Marcus, you probably know where I stand. We've spoken at this before, and it's one of the reasons why I set up BD Matters, right? Because throughout my entire career, you know, I've never seen so many business development people, you know, disrespected, unappreciated, just not understood, basically, and sadly it still kind of exists today, and I can see that in the way that, you know, people buy like agencies like mine and Katie's, right? Because the questions we're asked, the expectations put on us, and things like that just demonstrate a lack of understanding and ignorance in some of this area. And what that leads to is new business becoming, you know, a lot of those people feeling under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, not really feeling supported. You know, I've gone in-house and I worked recently even at like companies like, you know, Havas, I've done Dentsu, I've done Omnicom companies, and it hasn't changed in 5 years. You know, the poor qualification, no leadership from the top in terms of saying, like we talked about, being clear about who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. It doesn't matter because, you know, it's capitalism. We've got to pay the man upstairs, right? So we are going for that pitch, and I don't care how many people we crush in the process. And that happens every single week, every single month, right? And I went in those companies and there's people suffering from burnout. They want to leave. The tenure is about 18 months to 2 years because they just want to get out. They don't take a marketing-led approach like Katie does, which is why companies like hers are brilliant, because they're teaching people and understanding what it takes to be good at new business. There's still this kind of short-term effect, or I could just chuck out 1,000 emails and that's going to fill my pipeline. All this kind of nonsense is what crushes the new business industry and the people that are working within it. And it, in effect, is basically symptomatic of what Marcus is talking about, the mental health problems. And we know business owners as well who carry that burden on their shoulders as well to grow the business. You know, new business is a culture. It's not a person. Yes, there's teams that are in charge and there's people in charge of driving that culture. But unless new business is a culture, we're always going to have that problem because we put it down to one person. The business owner, they're bringing in all the leads. The new biz agency, they'll bring in all the leads, right? So people are so quick to want to delegate this problem rather than going, it's our problem. How do we all fix it as a team? And how do we encourage marketing and sales, all the things we talk together, work together to actually grow our business rather than trying to point the blame and actually take some accountability. So until that happens, I see the same problems with mental health issues.
Adam, we need to talk about this together more because it's so, and I remember being there, you know, I've been new biz director, head of new biz, commercial director, whatever you want to put, whatever label you want to put on that role, at big agencies, small agencies. I work with a lot of large agencies. We do still work with independent agencies. I must say, I'm going to be really mean here. I'm just going to be really fucking honest because I've lived it. But the worst are older men in older, larger agencies, that they just haven't culturally got their head around it. And I just now refuse to work with them. And some of them, I can tell you, are complete a-holes. And they're rude. They've got exactly the expectations that Adam's saying. It's so unrealistic. You should not be running a business like that. And I do think, I mean, you're starting to see it in the news. The businesses that work like that, other businesses don't want to work with them. You can see those people in businesses. You know, I have been lucky enough to, interview quite recently the CMO from Vodafone. In fact, I'm speaking to the new CEO of the AA next Wednesday, if I can get into London because there's a rail strike. they are so focused on working with businesses and agencies that show up and care about their staff. So people with these, sorry, but let's just say it, shitty old school attitudes that totally kill people's mental health, I just think will naturally fail because they're just not changing. And I can spot those people in, sadly, some of the businesses that I still work with. It's so detrimental to the business, I've spoken to CEO of one of our agencies and he's like, we don't need values. I'm like, you don't need values? What are you talking about? Well, your staff getting behind, like, if you don't have values, I can tell you now, we might get you opportunities, but the agencies that have got strong values and talk about their culture and talk about how they support the well-being of their staff are going to beat you at RFP stage, because you're just going to get crossed off the list. Because the CMO at Vodafone, it's one of the biggest things. They want to understand the culture. They want to understand how, if that business has got the same values as them, and if you haven't and you're not showing up like that as an agency, you're in trouble. If it's that pointing down, blame culture, whether it's new business, account management, whatever it is, it's that it's not a healthy way to live. So yes, it still happens. I do think those people are going to retire soon, or some of them, and hopefully culturally we all take a much more modern, inclusive, kinder approach to it moving forward.
It's a thing called the status quo bias, and I'm covering it on the podcast this year, where we're talking about the whole mental health issue. And I had the latest show was a guy called Dr. Gleb Sispersky, and he is a sort of an expert in sort of the way that new companies are sort of running and catering to their mental health thing. And the status quo bias is basically this whole thing about, like Katie just said, I've done it this way for all these years, and so I'm going to keep on doing it. And I think that it's a failure to recognize the fact that there's been fundamental changes in our industry. And as Adam said, the pressure is always on new business people. It's always on, but it is a shared experience. And a good new business person will sit there and make sure that his whole team is included in this whole thing and make it a team event so that everybody's sort of funneling these opportunities in.
Guys, I'm going to stop everyone there because I've got about 30 seconds left to close this off. But thank you, Katie, Adam and Keith, for a really fantastic enlightening session. I think we could talk all day about this. So we're going to be following up with the video on this later this week. And then there's going to be a blog. As you say, we're cutting our content to make it, spread it further and wider so that actually we're helping people in this space. We've got more events coming up next month. We've got an events page on the Pimento website, which you can have a look at. We've also got our next 6 p.m. club, which is on the 23rd of Feb, and it is actually hosted by our expert panelist, Adam. So we're going to be sending the link out later today, well, actually later this week, where you can register. In fact, it's in the blog there, in the chat there. Please do come along. They're great sessions, and it's really about networking, meeting up with people face to face. And then our next BD club is on the 1st of March, and we're going to be exploring how to build actually resilient client relationships to increase growth. So we've got expert panelists on that as well. So guys, thank you very much for a great session. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you all have too. And if you've got any questions, do just email myself and I'll be happy to pass contacts over to people.
For sure.
We'll just have a chat with people.